The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode. I am recording in a temporary location right now because we are very close to moving into our brand new home that we were building this entire past year. So we are in packing renovation mode, but that's not going to stop our weekly episodes. As you saw from the title, I'm kind of pulling back the curtain on what could have been a story post or a whole podcast about my best quarter yet, my best month yet, and how great it is, and yay me. I'm going to share a lot of gratitude for my success over this past quarter, and especially what made March my best month working yet as a dentist. But I'm also going to share some of the things I noticed that went into making it the best month that's not as glamorous as it could seem from me just posting, hey, look how great I did this month. There's always a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and that's what I want to really highlight. So this is going to be our quarter one check-in for all of 2026. And we're really going to hone in on the month of March specifically, because that is where I had my best, highest producing month ever. So we're going to talk about how that happened, why that happened, how I felt throughout the process, how I felt reflecting on it at the end, and a little bit of January and February as well, looking at the quarter as a whole. And I also want to give a few quick life updates, but we'll do that at the end of the episode, since I know a lot of you here are mostly for the dental content, but some of you are probably curious as to what's going on with the fact that it's been a full year and I'm still not in my new house yet. For context, if this happens to be one of my first episodes you're ever listening to, my name's Haley. I'm a general dentist working in Southwest Michigan. My practice is in a pretty rural location. I'm an associate there. I started there right out of dental school, and I am approaching 2 full years out of dental school. So I'll be starting my 3rd year of practice in the summertime. So we have grown a lot in a very short period of time, and I think the biggest reason for my growth, just to give you some more context, is that I work with incredible doctors. I am in a group practice. There's 4 of us doctors there. 2 doctors are owners, and 2 doctors, including myself, are associates. And they are all incredible in terms of communication, in terms of leadership, and of clinical expertise. And I get to see them work every day. I get to work alongside them. I get to collaborate with cases. I get to treat patients and get feedback from them. And we have incredible patients and we have an incredible team. So it's not only the doctors, but every single person that works at our office every day really makes it an incredible environment where I feel positive every day at work. I feel supported. I feel loved. I feel encouraged. I feel like I can push myself and grow without a ton of fear, which is a very important thing to look for in an office. So with all that said, a lot of that contributes to why I would say I've had a very successful jump start to my first few years of practicing outside of dental school. And I have done these check-ins all of my time since I started working. I think I did monthly check-ins for the first maybe 3 or 4 months ever working out of school. So you can find those episodes. And then I know that I also did quarterly check-ins during my entire first year and my second year. And now we're getting into my 3rd year of practice. So if you ever want to know how I was doing at maybe a stage that you're currently in, I would highly recommend checking out those episodes and seeing if you can get any kind of support and kind of camaraderie community feeling. All right, fellow dentists, are you feeling overwhelmed by student loans or confused about your financial future? Our sponsor, Twin Leaf Financial Advisors, specializes in financial strategizing tailored for dentists. They'll guide you through managing debt, saving smarter, building wealth, and planning your future. Don't let money stress you out. Their expert team is here to give you peace of mind so you can spend more time doing what you love. Visit twinleafadvisor.com, TWINLEFADV.com, or text 321-521-3133 for a free consultation. With Twin Leaf Financial Advisors, your financial freedom starts now. On the topic of production, why don't we just compare production from last January, February, and March to this year, January, February, and March. Last January, my daily average was only $100 less per day than it was this January. So not too dramatic of an increase from year over year. In February, I saw that it was nearly the same as well. So we noticed that from January to February, I had about $1,000 more per day. January was a slower month, is the conclusion, but that was the same last year and this year. And then month to month comparisons year to year, basically about the same or only going up about $100 per day. So not too much of a significant difference between last year to this year, to be honest. But what was interesting is that this was still my best quarter and it was still my highest earning month ever in March. And I will explain why I think that happened and how that's possible, given that I said it was so similar to 2025's first quarter. I took off several days in March last year for an implant course. So that was invested by my office for me to go to that course. And then I was losing out on income earning days by taking time away from the office to go to the course. So the course cost money and I lost income opportunity by taking a week off of work to go to this course. So I only worked 12 days last March, but this March I worked 18. So that is where this magical, so much higher number, almost $50,000 more than last March, is coming from. So it's not like it was some miracle thing that from one month to the other just catapulted forward and is so successful. It really has been slow and steady growth. But what is really cool to me, and something I've noticed throughout quarter one compared to last entire calendar year, I have done more implant cases in all of quarter one of 2026 than I did all of last year. So 12 months of last year versus 3 months of this year, I've done more implant cases. So that is really something that I'm happy about and hoping I continue to see that trend of more frequent implant cases, because that is one of my goals for the year. I took that course last March, so obviously I wouldn't have been placing implants prior to that, but it really took a while in 2025 for me to start getting my first cases to come through the door. We didn't really have many existing patients in need of single tooth implants because we already had a doctor placing them. So anybody that really wanted one already had one. So it was waiting for limited exams and new patients to come in need of treatment. And if they were within my skill set, I could take on those patients. And then, of course, as time went, some of our existing patients ended up needing single implants too over the past calendar year, and I've been able to do some of those as well. So those are the couple different areas that implant patients have been coming to me from. So some are new, some are existing, but it took a while, way longer than I hoped and way longer than I expected, to actually be seeing more frequent implant surgeries coming on my schedule. And looking back at all of 2025, my daily average across all 12 months, how many days I worked, monthly production, all that jazz, for a daily average for 2025 was just over $5,000. And in 2026, I'm trending closer to $5,500. So a $500 increase per day is where I am trending, just around that average. So I'm hoping I can stay there, and that would allow me to have a much higher producing year than last year. But again, I took a week off for my honeymoon. I took a week off for that implant course. Our office closed for some weather days and we lost power once, but now we've got a generator. We didn't do any snow days in this past winter of this year. So we're rocking and rolling with more working days, and that is a big reason. It truly, a lot of times in dentistry, just comes down to communicating with patients so that you have treatment on your schedule and then being in the office to do that treatment. It's kind of as simple as that. Work less days, typically make less money, but you can have very profitable days, because I only work 4 days per week, really 3.5, because I'm out around 1 on my 4th day. So 3.5 days per week. And I have a very comfortable life, I would say, with where that is putting me. So it's really easy for me to go online and I could say, I produce this much in March, I make this much as a dentist, which I don't necessarily always share those flat out figures because I think people can misconstrue it that don't actually listen to the context. So if you care enough, you can crunch the numbers and figure all that out for yourself. But I think it's important to, again, like I said in the beginning, pull back the curtain a little bit, be more raw and real about where those numbers came from. So, did I make more this year than I did last year? Yes. Was it for anything super crazy specific that like I did and now you can do? Not necessarily. I think my communication skills are getting better. I'm getting better at more advanced procedures, but it's not like I'm doing full mouth rehab every day and last year I didn't. It's coming up more occasionally, but it's not a night and day thing. And it's very gradual. And that is what's realistic. Like I said, that's what's realistic about growth in dentistry. It's slow, it's steady. It's not going to be night and day most of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's good to not let people that choose to post online or even post anonymously online about their exact dollar successes without any context. It's easy to let that get you discouraged or get your hopes way too high. Just know that you're going to get where you want to get. It's going to take time, and that's okay. I think is the main message I want to send when it comes to the dollars and cents and income of all of it. So that's the real tea behind it, is that I had my best month yet. I'm sitting trending towards being kind of right at my annual goal that I've had since I started working. I set a specific goal of, I want to produce $1 million in a year. I think that shows that you're a pretty competent dental provider. And I hadn't hit that in my first half year and then full year of working. And I'm hoping, and it's seeming like that's going to happen this year. But it's not something where, again, it comes with no stress, no work, and it doesn't just happen overnight. Another thing I wanted to mention that I just said there was the word stress. So something that became really apparent to me during March was that I felt a lot more stressed about work than I typically had. I really only was nervous and stressed about work probably the first like 2 months of working after graduating. And then from there, generally speaking, I didn't have a lot of stress coming home with me, going to bed at night, waking up in the morning. I wasn't so anxious and stressed about work. Occasionally, if I had a really big procedure, obviously I'm going to be a little more amped up for it. But generally speaking, I was pretty good. But I noticed in March it was lingering more, it was more frequent. But that was because I was pushing myself a lot more clinically. I had more frequent, bigger procedures, which is great. But that's how I was able to keep that daily average so high, was that I was doing more high value dentistry, which I feel like it's all turned out great. I'm very proud of all my cases and it all went well, which is wonderful, but it doesn't mean that in the moment it wasn't more stressful. So also keep in mind with that with growth is going to come that uncomfortable feeling, might make you revert back to more stressful sleeps, might make you have some more anxiety that you haven't had in a little bit about going into the day. But knowing that you used to feel that way and eventually you got comfortable, I try to remind myself that here too, that as I'm continuing to grow my skill set and more frequent larger cases are coming on my schedule, I will eventually be super chill about that too. So it's something that you have to, again, slow and steady kind of wins the race. But I want to be honest about that too, that this being my best quarter ever didn't come easy breezy. It took a lot of work. And it was also, I noticed more stress coming home with me than I previously had most of last year. So it's figuring out if that's something you want. Like I could have just stayed exactly stagnant where I was last year forever, doing more of the very simple bread and butter dentistry. And that could have been fine for some people. And maybe that's what you want. And maybe you don't ever want to have that uncomfortable, stressed feeling ever again. Maybe it's just not what you want in your life. So it's important when you're setting your own goals, because I'm sharing my progress towards my goals. Make sure that when you're setting your goals, you think about the effort it's going to take, how it's going to feel, how it's going to affect your day-to-day life, and make sure that that's worth it to you. because that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what my goals are, it matters what your goals are. And only you know what makes the most sense for you. So some of the things, if you've listened to my past quarterly check-ins, I talked about like overall procedures. I don't really have procedure reports right now. I don't think at this point it's really necessary to compare procedures over time so much as I did when I was first coming out of school, because I thought it was interesting to see how quickly you scale from school into the real world, just like night and day. It's crazy. You do maybe 5 of something to 500 of something within a couple months from dental school to real world. So at this point, I don't think it's worth crunching those numbers. If there's ever anything interesting like what I just shared, that a lot more implant cases this quarter compared to last year, I will obviously share those in these check-ins. But the other thing I usually talked about was my production goals and my confidence. We already went over production goals, that I am tracking towards my goals finally, which previously I was not in quarter one of last year. And then it ended up I did not hit my goal at the end of the year. But I'm optimistic for this year. I'm feeling good. I feel like it can only go up from here or stay steady. I don't see myself going downhill, hopefully. So fingers crossed for that. As for confidence, you can probably tell that I've been pushing myself more, like I've shared, but it's not with lack of confidence and lack of preparation. So it's interesting how you can feel a little bit nervous for a procedure, even though you are still confident and prepared. It's an interesting balance, and I'm sure as dentists listening, you can understand what I'm saying. But in a way, I think it's good. And talking to my mentors, I think it's good because you never want to be complacent. You never want to be ill prepared out of being overly confident or cocky. So for procedures that I know are going to take my whole morning and that's what I'm focused on, I'm very prepared, I'm very locked in, and yeah, maybe I'm thinking about it the night before and while driving to work, because shouldn't you be if it's a really big case? So I try to not beat myself up about that and tell myself, that's normal and it shows that you care. So I feel like my confidence is continuing to grow as it should be as I go through year over year of practice. I've also shared in past check-ins hardest procedures. I would say not necessarily that it's hard, but it is still working out kinks and working through post-operative challenges when it comes to implant cases. So that's a new one I haven't talked about in check-ins before. Now that I'm doing more implant cases, I'm experiencing more post-op complications or procedural challenges as I'm going through and having to use more problem-solving skills and things not going perfectly to expected plan A and needing to be able to successfully pivot to a plan B without, needing extra assistance or having a suboptimal outcome, right? So that's been interesting, and it's definitely a challenge, and I've been enjoying being challenged. I don't like being too bored and stagnant, so that's why I like doing the more advanced procedures to a certain threshold. I don't know if I'm going to be Miss All on X doctor. I don't think that's necessarily for me. We have a doc at my office already doing that, and kudos to him. But as of now, that just seems like a little bit much for me, a little too medically complex, but to each their own. So that's where I'm at when it comes to the hardest procedures these days, or a better way to say it, the ones that are challenging me the most and making me use my brain the most would be implant procedures. And I've been enjoying it a lot. What am I proud of this quarter? Mostly, like I said, I think I'm proud of being able to balance a lot more on my plate. I feel like my days are full, which is what I want. I want a jam-packed, busy, well thought out schedule every day that I'm there, so it's as efficient and effective and productive as possible. So I'm proud that my team has been scheduling that way with me and that I'm able to execute it well and that it paid off for my most successful quarter. That's the best way to put it. I'm proud of my team and I'm proud of myself for the work that I put into and being able to execute on those expectations of what's on the schedule and to do a good job. I had a couple more full arch cases of crowns and bridge work and everything, and those are turned out really beautiful, which is always fun and rewarding. I do really enjoy the cosmetic stuff of it all. And I think that all of our different gadgets and gizmos at work, like lasers and being able to do different scopes of procedures from fillings to crowns to bridges to extractions, surgical extractions, using a laser, all the cool things, implants. I love just doing it all. So I'm proud that we are able to offer that to patients, and I'm proud that I can do a wide scope of procedures. As for CE courses this quarter, I did not attend any. I have our state's annual session coming up in a couple weeks. So that is kind of my first of the year. I am thinking I'm going to sign up for one virtual continuum that is more truly like educational based. And then I wanted, and hopefully will still do something surgical related, whether it's a PRF course, which we have in my office, or a grafting extraction course. I have my eye on both of those. I think I'm just hesitant to schedule things because, as I will mention at the end of the episode, we're kind of figuring out what we want to do with trying to get pregnant later this year. So it's always tricky scheduling ahead with not knowing where your personal life is going to be. And then up until now, we've just really been focusing on getting ready to move into the new house, and the year's kind of flown by for the first couple months of the year, to be honest. So not a ton of exciting CE. It's mostly like classroom stuff that I'm signed up for, but I'm hoping to get something more clinical hands-on, at least one course this year at some point. But I'm definitely doing some more lecture-based continuing education I've already signed up for, but nothing that I've done so far this quarter. Coming up later in the year is the plan. And in previous episodes, I've also done check-ins for our saving goals and financial check-ins. I've also done overall, how is health, happiness, personal life, how is all that going for me? So that's a good time to kind of wrap up the episode with that, I think. As for how our savings goals are going, good, I guess we can say in short. We're about to wipe out that saving account when we close on our house. I did a whole episode about how we were able to build a brand new custom home with being a dentist with just out of school, not a lot of proof of income history, that all those things. How does all that work? So I did a whole episode about the physician home loan, and then the very annoying little nuances if you really want to build with it, because it's pretty annoying and there's not a lot of lenders to do building with the physician home loan, but it's very, I would say, easy to get a mortgage on an existing house if you want to do the physician home loan. However, I would recommend that you still talk to lenders about traditional mortgages, whether that's 30 or 15-year fixed or different adjustable rate mortgages, all those things, because I have some friends in different states that were quoted for physician loan and then the normal rates were better for some reason, or a lot of times if you're buying a house, you're married maybe. So that just is how it shook out between their joint financial picture of applying. But it's a nice option. If you're a dentist, you have that option to consider. So I would consider it. But that's how we were able to fund our home build, was with the bank's money. And we're going to close on this house, and everything that was over budget for the build, we're going to write a big fat check to our builder to cover that difference. And then we will move into the house and start paying our mortgage on the amount that the bank gave to fund building the house. And that's how much our mortgage is going to be. So we are wiping out a lot of our savings, but that was pre-planned. We knew how much the overage was because we've been building for a year. So every time we elect for something that's over budget or something just is over budget, our builder lets us know, and we start to save money into our high yield savings account. The bank that we use has savings buckets, which is really nice. So I have a bucket for my upcoming maternity leave, which I'm not pregnant yet, but I have a maternity leave bucket. We have our emergency fund bucket. We have a bucket for landscaping, for furniture, and for house build overage. So emergency fund is still the same as I mentioned many, many months ago. Back like when I first started working, it didn't take me too many months, thankfully, with dentist income to build up a good emergency fund. We've since upped the amount that we want in there. So we're working on upping that savings account a little bit more. That way it's a little bit heftier as homeowners. Emergencies can be more expensive. So we're trying to keep more money in that account, but we had separate money already set aside for the build is my point. So it's not a surprise that this money is leaving, but bye-bye, big chunk of money. That's just what happens when you buy a house, whether it's a down payment or something like that. That's just how it is. And then, as I said, we're saving for house projects already. We're saving for furnishing the house. We're saving to do landscaping. Don't have much of that saved yet. We're going to kind of go slowly over time. The trend of this episode from earlier, growing at work slow over time, growing your finances slow over time, buying things that you want but don't need slow over time. Slow and steady, baby. That's what wins the race. Isn't that what they say? So that is where we are with the finances. Things are good. We're still investing the same amount that we wanted to every month, and we are still doing our retirement accounts the same. And anything extra, we put into our high yield savings towards those other goals that we have. So that's what works for us, since dentist income is so variable. If I have a really good month like I did in March, then we have more that we can save into the high yield, into those different goals that we have. And when we have enough money, then we'll buy the next thing that we want or do the next project that we want. We are looking forward to a couple trips later this year. We booked a trip to California for my birthday, and then we're also going on a trip with my family. So parents, sister, brother-in-law, and then me and my husband, we're going out west for Labor Day. So I'm excited for that, but we don't have too much else really spendy on the horizon. My husband turns 30 very, very early next year, and then some of his friends are end of this year. So those guys kind of want to do a big end of year 30th birthday trip around the holidays, somewhere tropical. So we'll see if that happens and if I even go, but that might be something that we're saving for too. So there's always things. I've mentioned that I really like Ramit Sethi, his rich life motto, and like live your rich life, and what does your rich life look to you. And I think it's like main book is I Will Teach You to Be Rich, but he has a whole podcast and he has his book of money for couples. So I really like listening to him. I think it just gives you a broader perspective on what's going on with other people's financial pictures, and maybe will make you feel less bad about yourself, to be honest. But anyways, his whole point is you want to spend on things that you value, right? So I think we're doing a really good job of making purchases that we are happy with. If you spend money on something and you regret it, then you probably don't value that, and you hopefully can avoid spending money on that in the future. Of course, necessities, that doesn't really apply to. If your roof is caving in and you need a new roof, no one's going to be like, yes, new roof, 30 grand, heck yeah. Like everyone's going to hate that. But I'm saying luxury car versus vacation versus new workout outfit versus fancy gym, like all these non-essentials that you can choose between. If you have extra income, you can't do it all, and you shouldn't do it all, and you shouldn't do it just to flex for other people. You should do it because you want whatever specific thing is. So point being, I think we are very aligned and doing a good job of saving for things that we actually enjoy. We just purchased our golf membership for the year. So prepaid a hefty amount, but now we don't have to pay to golf. We can golf as much as we want at the club that's by our house. So my husband loves to golf. I'm getting into golf. So that's something he really values, and we save up and do that every year. So I'm very grateful for dentistry for allowing me to be able to do that. But that's kind of where we're at with finances and overall health and happiness. Like I said, it all kinds of ties in. We're able to do what we want within reason. You know, sometimes you have to save and wait, and some things a little bit later, but I've been really impressed and happy with how this work year is going so far, and we're able to do things, some things even sooner than we expected. We had an incredible wedding last year and honeymoon, and I'm really grateful to be moving into a home that we'll hopefully be in for a very long time, like 15-ish years is the goal and plan. So it's exciting to know we're going to be starting our family there. And I've mentioned in other episodes that we're hoping like end of the year to hopefully be pregnant by then, but you just never know. So that will be interesting to see how that all plays out. And it's something that we're saving for as well, since you don't typically get any pay during maternity leave as an associate dentist when it comes to private practices and things. And I think that's pretty similar for even smaller corporate models as well. Pretty much if you don't work, like I said earlier in the episode, you don't get paid. So we're preparing financially for that too. But overall, I'm very happy, and I have a lot of flexibility with working only 3.5 days a week. So I'm able to do this podcast, do other projects. I'm doing a really great volunteer role right now for the Michigan Dental Association's Mission of Mercy, which they have in a lot of states. You might be familiar, but it's a free dental clinic that is for a whole weekend in June coming up, and it's actually in the area that I live. So that's how I was selected to help be a local lead for chairing that event. So I'm doing a lot of groundwork, especially April, May, and June, now that it's very close to the event, with recruiting volunteers and recruiting patients. So that is taking a lot of time too. So I have that ability to do volunteer roles like that and give back and still take care of our house and cook and take care of myself and work. And I'm very grateful. That's kind of how I'll end the episode, is a ton of gratitude and a lot of excitement for what's to come with Q2, which, I mean, as I'm recording this, we're in April, it is Q2. So Q2 is off to an interesting start. Hopefully we'll be in our house by the end of April. And then from there, we're just settling in, and it's like the rest of life, which is crazy. Like once we're in this house, it's like, okay, we're married and now we have a house. Now it's forever after that, it's like the rest of life. Let's see what it has in store. So it's pretty cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, and you all will be along for the ride. I don't plan on having this podcast go anywhere. So thank you so much if you've listened all the way to the end of this nice chatty life update and update of the work quarter so far. If you ever have any questions about something you might be struggling with your work as a dentist, or maybe you're a dental student looking for your first job, if there's any way I can help and you have any questions, just feel free to always message me. You can message on TikTok, on Instagram. You can do my Dr. Haley DDS page. You can do the Dental Download podcast page. I will see it and try to respond. Thank you all so much again for everything that you do for the podcast. That is why I'm able to record episodes, is you listening. So thank you for being part of this community, and definitely share with a friend if you find anything I have to say a little bit useful. I will talk to you all next Monday.